So, our top news story of the week has Twitter buzzing, including Elon Musk and Michael Saylor laughing at the expense of both Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger having to answer questions once again surrounding Bitcoin at this weekend's Berkshire Hathaway's meeting. If you know anything about Munger and Buffett in regards to Bitcoin, they have a distaste for it. In the past, going as far as calling it rat poison, and this weekend was no different. Surprise, surprise. Munger calling it evil, Buffett basically calling it worthless, doesn't produce anything. Here's a short clip giving you a little insight on the way that Warren Buffett thinks about Bitcoin.
Now, if you told me you owned all of the Bitcoin in the world and you offered it to me for $25, I wouldn't take it because what would I do with it? I have to sell it back to you one way or another. I mean, maybe I have the same people, but it isn't going to do anything. The apartments are going to produce rental, and the farms are going to produce food. And if I've got all the Bitcoin, I'm back where whatever his name was, who may or may not have existed, was 15 years ago. If I've got it all, he could create a mystery about it. But everybody knows what I'm like. I mean, so if I'm trying to get rid of it, people will say, well, why should I buy some Bitcoin from you? I mean, why don't you call it Buffett coin? Make your own or something. Do something. But
So a couple things I take away from this clip. One being, Michael Saylor, you're a god of a troll. I would buy all the Bitcoin for $25. Continues to pile on both Munger and Buffett. Just love to see it. But two, Buffett and Munger might not be directly buying Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, or at least publicly they're not. They're doing so indirectly by having one of their positions in their Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio being considered one of the most crypto-friendly banks in the entire world down in Brazil. Which is interesting because one of your portfolios has this position as a crypto-friendly bank, but you're there bashing both Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Just doesn't make sense to me. Even going as far as calling it evil. I feel like there's a narrative to be played here. It reminds me very similar to what Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, did back in 2017, talking so much shit about Bitcoin and other cryptos, and then changing his tune, which is not the issue here. Here in 2022 at the Bitcoin Miami conference, being a keynote speaker there, but finding out that back in 2017, while bashing it, is buying up Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. It wouldn't surprise me if years down the line we find out Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger were doing the same thing, and they just weren't doing it publicly, and it was done privately. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. The one thing that I find fascinating is that they don't find any purpose for it, or that they don't think that there's any generation revenue to be had. Obviously, they don't understand, or they probably do, and they're just talking so much trash behind closed or in front of everyone to downplay it. But the proof of work system that Bitcoin has, that Ethereum currently has before the merge, creates revenue for the miners. More Bitcoins introduced, miners get a portion of that revenue into their wallets, obviously for securing the network, creates revenue generation for those involved. So to me, there is there's more purpose for the technology, but if you're looking for revenue generation, obviously through mining can do that. That carries us and segues us right into Ethereum and having one of the largest NFT mints in history. Another way for a company, Yuga Labs, to generate wealth for themselves. A mint on the software of Ethereum, getting a land sale raise of over $320 million. Mind blown. So much money being poured into Bored Ape Yacht Club and Yuga Labs. It is insane how much money they're bringing into their company, and is going to be a massive player within the space for years to come. Obviously. Now, this kind of broke Ethereum for a second and shut down Etherscan. This caused a little bit of issues because people were willing to pay 2.5 ETH for gas alone just to mint into the other side. Now, if you don't understand, you have to have gas in order for the transactions to take place on Ethereum, and those gas fees also are rewarded to the miners currently, but eventually that will go to the stakers once the merge happens in Q3, which is even more of a bullish case to have Ether to try to get as much as you can so you can stake it and earn these crazy rewards. Now, Ape itself, in order to purchase this land, you had to own ApeCoin 305 to be exact. In a previous video, we did say that there was a Dutch auction. Totally wrong. It was stuck at 305, but that mint alone cost over 2.5 ETH for most. And if you had a failed transaction, at least Yuga Labs is going to pay back those individuals that lost 2.5 ETH, because if you don't understand, if you have a failed transaction, you lose your gas fee. And if gas was that much, that's nearly, or that is $6,000 and above. That was a rough average of that mint, which is just absolutely bonkers to me. Now, Yuga Labs did come out and say that we're sorry for turning off the lights on the Ethereum for a while. It seems abundantly clear that ApeCoin will need to migrate to its own chain in order to properly scale. We'd like to encourage the DAO to start thinking in this direction. Now, there's a lot of people that have mixed feelings about this. I think this is going to be a great move for Yuga Labs and the Bored Ape Yacht Club community if done properly. If they can build a chain that it runs successfully and doesn't have issues, because this could also blow up in their face at the end of the day as well, leaving Ethereum. But Binance has done this. Wax has done this in the past. There's been many use cases or many times that this has been done in the past where they started on Ethereum natively and then moved off chain to their own chain. So this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And this actually benefits widely or wildly in Ethereum's favor, in my opinion. Yes, they lose probably the #1 NFT project in the entire ecosystem to get their own fees. But guess whose eyeballs are going to be looking at Ethereum to build? Everyone else. Every entrepreneur, every business is jumping on Ethereum first in order to build, create an ecosystem that carries them to where Bored Apes is currently looking to go, which is just insane, because obviously if you're able to build your own chain, you're then getting all the fees, but there's the risk that it just gets shit on at the end of the day and it becomes a disaster. So we will see how that plays out, and we'll keep you up to date on a weekly basis. We do want a little touch base, since we're talking about chains regarding strength and how they are, Ethereum kind of shut down, turn off the lights for just a moment. Solana, this has happened 7 times in 2022 alone. I think back in 2021, it also shut down for over 48 hours, 2 days on a shutdown of an entire network, is where I'm not going to be putting my money into a network like that. That's just my case. You can make your own decision. It's just troubling to hear that Solana has had its 7th outage in 4 months. So hopefully that can be rectified, especially with a blockchain that is considered to have this speed on the network, and a network that shouldn't go down. Obviously, there is a reason why this is happening. It's because all the mint bots out there just crowding the network, overloading the network to a point it can't sustain itself. Now, some other news out there in the world. Fidelity Investments made history this week when it announced that it would give participants in employer-sponsored 401k plans options to invest in Bitcoin. Fidelity is the largest retirement plan in the US and has become the first to add Bitcoin to 401k plans. Now, roughly 23,000 companies use Fidelity to administer retirement plans, and Fidelity currently has over $11 trillion in assets and under control in their company. Massive news for Bitcoin specifically, because currently right now it's only for Bitcoin. Now, of that $11 trillion of allocations, that's obviously not going to be flowing all right into Bitcoin. Understand that there's a maximum of 20% of their nest egg can be used to invest into Bitcoin, and not everyone's going to max out, of course. So just understand that this gives another avenue and a more of a use case for Bitcoin in general and cryptocurrency as a whole, because when Bitcoin's being adopted, Ethereum's not too far behind, and others will start to roll with that snowball effect. Now, some other crazy wild news. A third country is poised to approve the use of Bitcoin, and 8 other cryptocurrencies without limitation. So El Salvador created legal tender for Bitcoin. Now a country in South Africa also or Central Africa, mind you. I got two different reports calling it legal tender and not, but I'm starting to think that they are creating legal tender for Bitcoin within their country as well. Panama, though, is not creating legal tender. And we've talked about this before, what the difference is. Legal tender making businesses have to accept the cryptocurrency. What this is doing is allowing businesses commercially or civilly to accept Bitcoin and these other cryptocurrencies or choose not to. And then the government's going to be creating a digital wallet. We're going to start to see adoption across the board in different countries across the world. And this is going to start to get wild, in my opinion, throughout 2022, throughout 2023. If inflation continues the way it's going and we start to see crashes across the market, this is the type of adoption you will start to see, and we'll check in on a weekly basis to see what other countries are bringing that adoption here. Now, we do want to hint at one thing over here. Plan B dropped this graph, which indicates we missed our cycle for Bitcoin and Ether. It happened back in March and April of 2021. We always miss it. Can't help ourselves, right? No one thought that was going to be the peak, but it's starting to look more like it was. And we've already been in an entire bear cycle ever since, which is a good thing because we're maybe hopefully almost out of that bear cycle here and starting to head and trend in the right direction. But the only negative thing about that is there still is a chance, typically in a bear cycle, it ends with a nasty capitulation. So you can expect that in the coming weeks or maybe in the next month, how that plays out. But since we didn't have such a huge Bitcoin massive rally or crypto massive rally to begin with, maybe the capitulation won't be as bad either. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that in the coming weeks. Now, we do have the FOMC, or the Federal Open Market Committee, meeting both tomorrow and Wednesday discussing rate hikes. It's expected to be 50 basis points, 0.5%, giving us up to 0.75%. Obviously, if they're more aggressive than that, it's going to make some noise within the market. Currently, the market is anticipating a 50 basis point jump, which that's priced into the market. So if you're getting into Bitcoin or Ether or anything at this moment right now, you could see some volatility in the coming weeks. Do not get shaked out. Continue to DCA and dollar cost your average your way into these markets, especially if you're new to the crypto space. 50-50. Understand Ethereum, understand Bitcoin. 50-50 of your allocation goes into it. Or if you want to go 75-25 into Bitcoin majority and then ETH, however you want to play it. But I just recommend looking at those two and understanding those two technologies first before you start to try to allocate to any other cryptos within the space, especially during a bear market that we're obviously currently in. Now, the CPI, or the Consumer Price Index, is also going to be coming out on May 11th, which last week we hit some 40-year high in last month. And in all indication, they are hoping it starts to level off and die down as the years go on. So if we come out with an even higher CPI than 8.5%, we are in for a world of hurt for the future. So we will see how this plays out. May 11th is the day, so keep your lookout for that CPI to come out. Now let's go ahead, check out our trading view, the Heikin Ashi Candle view, over on our Bitcoin charts. So checking out the weekly Heikin Ashi Candle view through the eyes of Bitcoin price, just north of $38,000 at this moment. This is a simple reminder. With time, Bitcoin always trends up. Dollar cost your average your way into winners, which the winner circle, in my opinion, is Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that is it. Who joins that winner circle down the line, only time will tell. None of this is financial advice, though. Remember, we're just here for pure entertainment purposes only, and we're just giving you a perspective and an opinion. That way you can decide for yourself what is best for you and your crypto portfolio at the end of the day. Dollar cost average into winners. So that's going to set us off and end us with our talk around our DCA simply adding $100. You obviously can add more or less to a weekly portfolio or monthly. But currently, weekly, adding $100 worth of Bitcoin has got us over 4 million Satoshis. Smallest denomination of Bitcoin is those sats. The more Satoshis we can stack, the better it is for our portfolio. On a monthly basis, adding $100 to Bitcoin has over 1 million Satoshis. Now, total invested, we're both in the red, barely, for both positions. That is totally fine. We'll be A-okay at the end of the day here. This price actually is $38,748 when we purchased it. Lower than that currently, but we'll go ahead and change that a little bit further into the red right now. But guess what? We're doing this, tracking this with time. We've gone over this before. If you did this back in early 2017 and just added $100 a month for 5 years, you would have 7x'd your position through Bitcoin alone. So your goal should be to DCA both into Bitcoin and Ethereum. And obviously, if we do capitulate, to allocate a little bit more funds during those times when they are an opportunity of a lifetime to get into that position. As always, everyone, I enjoy you taking your time to listen to my videos. Thank you, everyone. Give me a like, subscribe, and head over to that Twitter page at Macro Crypto Club. Give us a follow. Like always, the link will be down in the description. Till next time, everyone. Peace.